What up, Backstory community? It's Andrew Metal. Today we're meeting with Richard Werby from StudyPool. He dropped out of college and has what is now rumored as a $30 to $40 million valued company. He also went through 500 startups and is going to tell us about this killer hack that he did to get into the program. What up, world? I'm Andrew Metal. I've generated success and massive exposure by leveraging the press. I've been featured in Time, The Next Web, Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur, Fox, Fox News, Lifehacker, and hundreds of other high-level media outlets. The result has been tens of millions in website traffic, which has catapulted my success. And I've been able to do this by simply sharing my backstory, having fun, and pranking the media. And I'm here to help other entrepreneurs do the same thing. Entrepreneur Network has picked up my 3 shows: Backstory, Founder Fun, and Prank. What's up, Backstory? We're here today with Richard. Richard, there are rumors that your company is now valued at about 30 to 40 million. You're 23. You dropped out of college to start the company. You successfully went through 500 startups. But before we get into all of that, which we will, let's kind of take it back. Like, tell me a little bit more about where you grew up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Andrew, it's good to be here.
Yeah.
I grew up, I was born in Paris. Then I, shortly after, moved to Brussels in Belgium. And then I found my way out to the United States in Philadelphia. So it's, kind of think of it, it's kind of a downgrade over time. Paris is amazing. Brussels is still pretty nice. And Philadelphia kind of sucks. But that being said, though, coming back out to California, I would say I'm back at par with Paris, if not better.
And so, how old were you when you moved to Philly?
I was, I believe, 10, around 10.
Okay, so you were 10, and so you kind of grew up in Philly?
I grew up in Philly for the most part, yeah. Well, weird, between Philly and Delaware, I lived in the border.
Okay.
Borderlines.
In public high school, private high school, what was your home like?
I came from a pretty fortunate background. I was able to go to a private school in Delaware, which was nice. And then, I was one of the PA boys that crossed the border every day to go to that school. And so that was the situation.
Nice. And so what were you like in high school? Were you geeky? Did you play sports? Were you kind of outsider? What was your personality type then?
I just kind of went with the flow in high school. It's pretty chill. Somewhat of that nerdy guy. A lot of people would come to me when they needed help with, subject matter regarding school. Like, hey, I'm really stressed about this homework question. Hey, Rich, my exam's in 5 minutes. So people would chase me down looking for help.
Were you charging up?
No, I wasn't charging. Of course not. I was just helping out my friends. It was a small school. Enjoyed the experience.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that was high school, and then you went to college, right? For a short period?
Well, I went to college, but I guess that phrase alone doesn't represent the whole experience, because I didn't actually finish college.
Right. So tell us about that. So
I attended Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia, for about a year and a half, and then StudyPool started to grow, and we decided to drop out of college and come out to California.
Cool. So pause right there.
Yeah.
Tell us what StudyPool is.
StudyPool is a micro tutoring platform, and so we've invented the concept of micro tutoring, which is 1 to 15-minute tutoring sessions. So you might be wondering, what the hell is that, right? Well, if you remember when you were in high school, were you the really smart guy in high school, or were you the bad student? Okay, so you'd be that guy chasing around me, saying, hey, Rich, you need some help, and maybe for a few minutes, I'd be like, okay, this is how you do this algebra problem. And so that's what micro-tutoring is. That is micro-tutoring. It happens every day. Micro-tutoring is happening 10 million times today all around the world, and especially in the United States, right? But what we realized is that it's not actually efficient because you can't do that on demand 24/7. And so with the current tech infrastructure that we have today, we actually were able to create a platform, study pool, where you can do that 24/7 on demand.
Right.
And it's like having, thousands of me or, friends that are also turned out to be professional tutors that can help you, not just during the school day. They can help you at 2 a.m. in the morning, 7 a.m. It takes them like a few minutes to connect with a tutor. And so now we just made micro-tutoring really accessible for the masses in a convenient type of way.
Nice. So how did you come up with the idea initially? Because you were in high school and then you had I think 1 year of college or your first year of college and you dropped out right away to build Study Pool, right? So tell me about the inception of the idea itself. And then after that, I want to kind of talk about how you validated the idea.
Sure.
And knew there was enough to just drop out of college and totally pursue,
Yeah.
Because that's obviously a huge choice, So.
Yeah. So I mean, handful of questions there. Let me try to tackle those. I think that as far as coming up with the idea, it wasn't as much of coming up with an idea as it was really, as I mentioned, I was that kind of nerdy guy that people would chase around looking for quick help, whether it be in high school, in locker rooms, or it be in college in the dorm rooms. And my co-founder and I, Jimmy, we basically realized, hey, there's got to be a better way to do this. I mean, people are basically willing to chase us around, beg for help, pretend to be our friends to get help. Then we could probably make this even better with the tech infrastructure that exists today. And so we just built a little simple platform that was the kind of the seed of Study Pool, where we just had a few of our friends start using it, and then instantly we got this huge rush of traffic. Within a month, we had thousands of users. We were doing thousands of dollars, and it was crazy. There was a day. I remember I was in class and I was trying to focus on the teacher, and we were literally doing thousands of users in traffic and dollars, and I was why am I even sitting in here right now? and there's just it was when you have something that exciting, it didn't feel like a big decision, just the natural flow.
Sure.
Yeah.
Tell me what that first version of that product looked like, because you said. And you didn't have you didn't know how to code at that point. Right?
No, I did.
You did.
And so my co-founder a prodigy when it comes to tech. I myself, I've actually, backtracking, I had started another business in high school called StockNiche, which was a community for investors and traders, and I was the tech guy for that. Actually, I got to sell that for a little money before I graduated high school, and that was really my introduction to opportunities in tech and the exciting things that we can that I can do there, right? But no, we basically the first version, there was no version. It was just Jimmy and I and people coming to us for help. And there was never a plan to go make a massive business. It was just we're just doing this and just going with the flow. And then it was okay, well, let's just make it a little bit easier for our friends. We'll make a little platform. And then after we made the initial platform and then people started using it, we were okay, this could be big. And we got pumped. And so literally for 2 weeks straight, we closed ourselves off into our dorm rooms. And we skipped all of our classes. I didn't even go to get food. I would get friends, other people in my dorm. I would pay them $5 to go down to the cafeteria and go get us some food, and they'd just drop it off for us. By the time we left the dorms 2 weeks later, I had honestly no idea what day it was, what time of day it was. It was crazy, but then the platform was up, and then it was, from there it just was growing.
So tell me about the tech stack at that time. What were you guys developing with?
Just really basic, back end, PHP, MySQL, and basic front end, HTML, CSS.
Okay, cool.
So just the standard tech stack, and Jimmy was really the pro tech guy, and I was just more of his apprentice then, helping him out. But yeah, that's kind of how we got it initially started, and there was never a plan of, oh, okay, we're gonna go do this. Like it wasn't like Jimmy and I sat down and we're like, we're gonna make a huge business.
Right.
Like it was never like that. It was just like, let's just do something that seems like people are asking us for.
For sure.
Yeah. And I think that's actually one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of people, I don't want to use the word entrepreneurs because I don't like that word. A lot of people, they get excited about making a business, but they kind of create this like dream or like this plan of like this giant company down the road. But business is so simple, and it just kind of starts with one person. You kind of scale it out, and that's really kind of how it naturally happened for us. And,
I agree. I think entrepreneurs or people that want to create a business sometimes like overthink how to come up with an idea. It's really pretty simple. Like solve a problem is like the easiest way to come up with a business idea. So you guys were solving obviously a problem that was
huge pain
point, and there was no real scalable solution. There was no real, I guess it was kind of like fragmented really, because like all these different people were just talking to different micro tutors whenever they could. So you created like an infrastructure for that. How old were you when, so I guess you were like what, 19 when you first started?
We were 19 years old. We were teenagers. We couldn't even drink yet.
Yeah.
We were just messing around with the idea, and then we officially made it a business in the spring of 2014.
Okay, and how old were you then?
It was like 20 or 21.
And when you say officially made a business,
we incorporated it.
Okay.
Yeah, and we were like, okay, we're doing this full time, and we're committed to this.
And you were generating revenue at that point?
Oh, yeah.
So how does the revenue model, or how did it work then? I don't know if it's changed now, but
sure.
Like what did that look like? And I don't know if you want to go into like approximately how much you were making then.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to hear.
Sure. So I mean, the model of the business is really straightforward. One is it's a marketplace. It's a marketplace infrastructure. So we have students on one end. They're looking for quick help, and then we have tutors on the other end, right? And then we just act as like the middleman or the market maker, and we connect the two. And then say someone needs a quick session, that session for like $5, we'll take a commission out of that. Our commission is usually 20 to 30%. Let's say it's 20, we'll take $1, and then the tutor takes $4, and everyone wins basically. The student gets a great experience. The tutor earned income that they usually couldn't earn. And as a business, we can drive. And then on top of that, what's exciting is that all of our micro tutoring is actually done through SMS and chatting, so it's not video chatting.
Okay.
And so what that means is that all that content is actually super rich because someone literally paid for it. StudyPool owns the right to all that content, so we've built a database of basically the biggest library of like academic Q&As, and then we can resell it, or we can rebrand it or remarket it, and that's very valuable as well. That's turning out to be one of the bigger aspects of our business.
Yeah. So do you have a plan where somebody could just pay monthly to review previous answers?
We don't. We have a plan in the future to do that.
Yeah.
We don't have a plan in the current product to do that.
Sure.
Yeah, I think there's so many avenues we can go down, and really we're just looking at the data. We're data nerds and deciding on what's the best strategy, but we do have plans.
Right. So you said SMS, not video, so everything's recorded. So is that all in platform? The SMS, it's all within
it's all
StudyPool platform. Cool. And then I'd assume payment and everything's all in app as well. And so you can track, do you track how much time a micro tutor provides the student, or like what does that process kind of look like?
Yeah. Well, typically, let's just have a common use case. So Andrew, has a big exam tomorrow. at 8 a.m. physics or something, right?
Yeah. I love physics.
Let's make it a tough subject. You're not
Calculus.
Calculus. So you have a calculus exam, and it's you were having a little too much fun during the day, and now you're super stressed as you're cramming, and it's like 2 a.m. in the morning, and you're like, shoot, what can I do? My friends are passed out. I can't ask them for help. I obviously can't contact my teacher. You can get on Study Pool and basically post, your problem, your question, conceptually. Within minutes, we'll connect you with a tutor. You'll say, hey, I need this within 10 minutes or an hour, and kind of based off of that and then the tutor quality that you're looking for, the degree of how calculus would be like a high school level, maybe college level. Then our algorithm would price that for you, and so that's basically how it works.
Nice.
Okay, as far as timing goes.
Okay, so take us back. You're 20 years old. You officially incorporate the company. You guys are making money. I don't know how much. 100,000 per year generating, or
well, so I think at that time we'd roughly been around the $1 million mark, and at this stage, we don't publicly disclose our revenues.
Yeah, right.
But we're definitely past the millions, and,
cool.
And it's exciting. We definitely have a strong business model.
Yeah, and so you're 20. You guys are making good money, and you're only at Emerson College at that point, or did you
Emory College.
Emory.
The funny thing is nobody knows what Emory is. But Emory is actually it's a pretty good school down south, but it's kind of it's low key. A lot of people don't know about it.
My bad.
Yeah.
Emory. So
let's go MMA right now.
So you're at Emory College, or did you scale out to other colleges at that point?
We never actually. Okay, so we did focus at Emory a little bit at first because that's where our friends were.
Yeah.
And then our growth strategy has always literally been just create something that's awesome and people will just share it.
Yeah.
And so we have not gone to one other school and marketed the product.
Nice.
It literally has just been shared naturally. As well as I mentioned, we're creating that content mill of all that rich content that's super valuable for students, and then they find it on Google. And then that's also how they find us. So the majority of our growth is organic.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I've always been a big believer, at least when building businesses, that marketing is important, but you have to have a really good service and a really good pain point that you're solving to be able to market anything. And the best business markets itself.
Yeah, I agree. So start there. That's awesome. And no marketing dollars, everything organic. You probably took off. I don't know how many colleges at that point. At what point did you decide, okay, I'm gonna start looking at 500 or some accelerator to get some of that experience, and like how did that come about? And tell us.
Yeah. Well, I think you make it sound as if there was like a long thought process on this. This is pure stupidity, and literally a month after launching, after that two week hiatus in our dorm rooms, ignoring everything in life. About a month out, things were going well. Investors started reaching out to us. They were like, "Come out to California. We want to have meetings with you." Somehow they had heard about us, and I really enjoyed college. College was a lot of fun. It's great atmosphere, but I enjoyed doing this more. And so I decided to basically just go out, and at the time we didn't have anything written in paper or anything, but there was just kind of this gut feeling that, hey, this is it. This is gonna work. And it's so funny because literally the first week that we moved out to California was the week that that 500 turned out to be our first investor and accelerator that we worked with, really helped us get to the point where we are now. They basically closed the deal with us within the first week, and that's crazy because most companies can be out for years before they get
capital sucks.
Yeah, typically. Yeah, well, I've heard war stories.
Yeah,
and so
I've raised collectively over my career probably, I don't know, upwards of $3 million.
all different capital raises, all different companies. They always take longer. So you guys, but I mean, it goes to show that you guys created a product that people wanted and there was a huge demand for, and I think that's really important.
Well, that's just it, right? I mean, I think that we had discovered fire. Like, we felt like we had discovered fire. Literally, all my friends were like, Richard, you're crazy, you're making the biggest mistake of your life, you're dropping out of a great university. My parents like barely knew, but like until the time was actually out there, and they're like, whoa, stop. And then 3 months later, you started reporting our numbers, and then everyone was like, well, maybe this isn't so bad of an idea. And of course, now everyone's pretty happy. But yeah, no, honestly, at first we had no idea what we were doing. It was totally gut feeling. But the thing is, both Jimmy and I had started previous businesses, and we knew what traction looked like. We knew when you have something exciting and when you don't. And it takes a lot to kind of like trap yourself in a college dorm room for 2 weeks to do something. We felt really empowered by this. Like, we saw that this could be something. And one of the hardest thing to do is trying to convince someone to use or buy something new. Right?
Sure, yeah.
Because you psychologically need to convince them that it makes sense, especially if it's brand new and their friends didn't tell them how awesome it was. And if people are naturally doing that with something you built, you've got fire. Right. Because you've obviously hit a huge pain point. And it's true, like, if you go to any college campus, literally, you'll see people that are walking around that look like zombies. You'll be like, that guy was up till 4. You'll see people that are like, I have headaches, like, there's physical symptoms from people who are getting too stressed out about concepts. And I think there's a fine line. I mean, it's really important to attack, say, a calculus problem and try to figure out the concept yourself. But there's a certain point, maybe say an hour or two in, where I think it's actually detrimental. You start saying, I hate calculus. I never want to touch math again. And and then it's like, well, now I didn't even sleep. I can't even prepare for, be ready for my exam. And I just completely hate this. And I've seen this probably with the subject chemistry more than anything else. Chemistry and like science just in general is so awesome. It's so interesting. Yeah. But what they do in high school is you go to chemistry, like, what is it, 101 or something, or intro to chemistry, and it's like, okay, guys, memorize the periodic table, and then we're going to do like these exams on how well you've memorized it, right? And based off that, everyone walks out. It's like, I hate chemistry. I do not want to do chemistry or anything in science. And I just think it's totally the wrong approach from that perspective. I think there's got to be a mix of kind of doing something more physical and combining it with some of those foundation, like chemistry. The periodic table is very important, but that should be kind of balanced out with something more physical as well. So
is Study Pool are you guys? I have another question I want to go back to, but
you have a lot of questions. Yeah, what is this?
Are you kind of helping people? Like, I don't know if you could say this or not, but are you helping people kind of teach themselves how to learn better?
Yeah.
With that kind of,
we're helping students when they're stuck on a specific concept or problem, basically understand that specific concept or problem.
Yeah.
And so there's actually, I'm glad you brought this up. There's a really big debate in education right now. It's around the concept of mastery versus time in class, right? And basically what that means is that, is it better to focus on students mastering a subject and really mastering a concept? And that could mean, for one student it could take them 5 minutes, for another student it could take them 5 hours, right? Yeah. Or is it better to have them, work on a subject for an hour every day repetitively, say in the classroom? The current ecosystem in academia is the latter, where you basically you have this set curriculum, you have these classes, and you spend an hour a day. And some of the students, they just run through it, and then they're just bored out of their minds. And then some of the ones are really struggling with it. Study Pool, we definitely are advocating mastery. We're like, hey, you need help in this math problem, okay, or this concept, calculus. If it takes 5 minutes, great. We've had some tutoring sessions last hours, right? And it's not based off of, okay, it's an hour or anything. It's based off of what the student needs so that they master the subject, which for us seems very intuitive, but this is actually not how the education system is set up right now. Yeah. It's kind of like a one-size-fits-all type of thing. And I think there's definitely going to be a really big shift. I'm thinking in the next decade, especially with all the great new technologies in education coming out, where it's going to be there's going to be multiple, it's not going to be one size fits all. It's going to be, many different services that, it'll be custom fit is what I mean.
Sure.
To you, custom tailored, and so.
Which is essentially what Studypool is doing. It's custom tailoring. I mean, you're starting with like small problems that each student faces, but you're providing that ongoing support that kind of customizes the learning process. It's almost like fundamentally you guys are like teaching people how to like relearn, which I think is huge and kind of goes into what you're saying.
Right.
So yeah, it's really cool. There was a point before where you said, because you guys had built companies, you kind of knew what traction looked like,
Sure.
And then you just put yourself in the dorm room for 2 weeks. Like, what were the key metrics that you saw? Was it like uses or like what were you guys like analyzing that made you realize, oh, dude, we have something for sure on our hands. Let's like sink a ton of time and energy into it and really like go for it. What was it that like clicked in your guys' brains?
Yeah. Well, I think when you have friends start texting you and you have people start kind of chasing you down, being like, hey, I heard you guys have this website, can I check it out? And then when you start walking into class and you're like, hey, I'm sitting in class and I'm making more money than the teacher that's teaching me right now. And it's literally just been a few weeks into this. That's when it clicks.
Okay.
And then you start doing math, and you're like, okay, well, there's 10,000 students in this school. There's 10,000 universities in the United States. Start crunching the numbers, and you're like, hey, there's a business here.
Yeah, very cool.
And I think there's also a really big, right now I think the academic system really does need a big reformation in a serious way. Sure. And so I think we fit into that math. Like we think there will be a shift to mastery for sure.
Yeah.
Because I think there's been this historically. It's if you look at it as like kind of three circles, right? At the center of education, it should be the students, right? And then the second circle would be like the parents, and then third is like the institutions, right? And everything is marketed towards like the institutions and the parents, but like the students aren't really getting to choose what they want to do.
Sure.
And so they go to school and they basically are like forced to do stuff. And a lot of that just, it's like one of the biggest things we've seen is that if someone doesn't want to learn something, it just is detrimental. When someone's actually self-empowered and wants to learn something, then they just absolutely crush it and they have a good time. They love education. And people, like students who come to Studypool, it's not parents and it's not institutions. We've never worked with an institution. Right. Sometimes parents are signing us up. I'm generalizing, but it's usually students that come to us.
Sure.
And they come to us and they love it. And it reminds me of the story. I won't say his name, but I was talking to someone that was actually we were considering to have him join our team. He went to Duke, soft student, amazing program, and. He had told me that after Duke, he decided to do a kind of like one of those hacker houses where you like learn to program.
Yeah.
For like I don't know, it's like 8 weeks straight. It's like it's something super intense in San Francisco. And he said in those 8 weeks, just some random hacker house. It doesn't have a big name. He learned more in those 8 weeks than he had ever learned in his whole life. And the reason why is because he had signed himself up for that. He wanted to do that.
Sure.
Whereas Duke, his parents just made him go there. Right. And he felt like he was just doing it because that's what he was supposed to do.
Right. That's awesome. So it seems like you guys had success after success, and it just kind of snowballed. I'm sure there were pain points you guys experienced, like growing the business, or can you talk a little bit about like some of the obstacles that you've had? Because it seems like obviously the business has done extremely well, and it seems like you just were like on this upward, hockey curve. But I'm sure at some point, whether it was growing too fast or like bringing on a new team, or can you talk a little bit about that?
As far as pain points go, there's the who was it? Reid Hoffman. I think famously said that starting a startup is like jumping off of a cliff and then building an airplane on the way down.
Yeah.
And it's a lot like that.
Yeah.
Especially when you start bringing in capital and you're in charge of employees and the team, it comes with a plethora of challenges, and I think that whether it's how to properly manage a head of marketing versus a head of tech, those are different people. So you need to manage them in a certain type of way.
Sure.
I'm in my early 20s. Jimmy's in his early 20s. We've never managed people before.
Yeah.
And so we definitely have to reach out to mentors and advisors on how to do that. And that was challenging in itself. I also found that it's very important to just really be inspired more than anything. In a way, I'm actually more of an advocate of finding something that inspires you rather than getting advice. I find advice to be very not useful, actually.
Sure.
I find advice to be pretty obvious and intuitive.
Yeah.
But if you can find someone that inspires you, you maybe watch them do some. For instance, in my case, you maybe go to their office and see them do some management. Then it kind of just rubs off on you if you get inspired. If you're not inspired, it doesn't do anything, right?
Yeah.
And so the whole time, Jimmy and I have just been able to be super inspired. We get more and more inspired every day, and that's what keeps it, going.
That's awesome.
And so, as far as the takeaway for us is that we're not as much focused on getting advice to solve our problems as much as let's get pumped up. Let's not take it as a chore. Let's this is part of the process.
Cool.
But it is a roller coaster ride for sure.
Yeah. Tell us about the 500 startups hack that helped you get into the program.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, we just moved up to California, and in the first week we were still kind of, we had no idea what we're doing.
Yeah.
Just doing our thing, and then 500. You're really one of the best accelerators in the world to reach out to us and be like, hey, we heard about you guys. Why don't you guys come by for an interview? And everybody knows you get the interview. That's like a huge deal, and you gotta crush it. It's go time.
Right.
But we had like a day to prepare. Like, come by tomorrow, and we were like, crap, like we gotta figure this out. So what we did is we basically went onto LinkedIn and a few other sites, and we found like a list of like 500 X500 founders. We scraped their emails and we emailed all of them, like all at once. And we're like, hey, we have an interview tomorrow. If you guys give us any advice, and we gave them the number, and like 40 got back to us. It was like amazing. They're super friendly people. Like at 500, is such a friendly organization, and so everyone was happy to talk to us. And some of these calls would even last like 30 minutes, and at the end I'd be like, were you comfortable giving a little tip to 500? And so when we had walked into 500 the next day, they were like, what is going on? Like we literally had an inbox of like 40 emails from founders. And,
that's awesome.
And I think that really helped set the tone for the interview.
Yeah.
And that was really good from that end. Yeah,
that's great. So then you went through 500. How long is that program? A couple months, right?
It was like 3.5. That program is so intense.
Yeah.
It's just so fast paced.
So and then you went through that, and then I'm sure through that, the resources and connections and network that you guys have built from that, has that helped just continue to grow the company and take you just to crazy places, or?
Oh, it's taken me to crazy places. No, I mean, 500 was absolutely state of the art, so professional. They really helped us. I mean, what they really do is they take ambitious, smart founders and teach them actually how to build a business.
Yeah.
They, as I mentioned, they teach you how to manage people.
Right.
They don't teach you, okay, here's the marketing strategy. You go to Facebook and you put this in. Everybody knows that, but they teach you to manage all the situations. How to adapt to different marketing strategies like that. Maybe Facebook would have worked 2 years ago. Now it's more like Instagram and Snapchat. So it teaches you how to keep an eye on what's new, how to take advantage of it, and then on top of that. And I think probably most importantly, it plugs you in with just the most amazing network of people that you can constantly reach out to when you have a problem. And like, I had an issue with our payment provider, and I was able to reach out to one of the co-founders of Stripe, and they're just like, okay, well, yeah, we'll fix that for you. Yeah. And it's just having that network is just it's everything. It was a total game changer.
Yeah,
and it was cool. And I actually believe, although there's been a lot of batches since us, we were the youngest founders that have ever done 500 at that point, or one of the youngest. Awesome. So it's pretty cool because we kind of had that on our shoulders as well. So
that's cool. So present time, the company's been around for what, 4 years?
Well, roughly spring of 2014. So a little bit over 3.
Yeah, and that's awesome. You guys are killing it. The rumors, we can't talk about those too much, obviously.
I would say just a very exciting time for the business.
Yeah.
And we publicly we've raised 2.5, and we have just the best investors, super helpful.
Nice. Smart money? It's all institutional, or is it friends and family, or?
We have a mix of very value-added angel investors.
Cool.
Like very, very helpful.
Yeah.
And then some VCs that have a lot of experiences of getting the companies from point A to point B or where they need to go, and they're also very helpful as well.
Cool. Yeah. And you and your partner still co-founders, right?
Yes.
I'm sure you have a bunch of team now that you manage and different people in different positions.
3 offices. We have one in Mountain View, California, one in Honduras,
nice.
And then one in Singapore.
So that was my question. You guys are now global? You're doing international business?
No, we just found it to not be efficient to have all of our team in Silicon Valley from a price perspective.
Sure.
It's really a long-term kind of, as a business, we care a lot about our unit economics, and in the long term, we just don't think it makes sense to have everyone be in Silicon Valley. We found that our operations, we could literally get it done for about 20% of the cost of what it is in Silicon Valley and Honduras. And in Singapore, we could get basically a third of the price for engineering. And or did I say that backwards? Singapore, Honduras, whatever. But basically, what I'm saying is it's just cost effective, and we want to set the tone early on as a business and how we want to manage our money. I think that's one of the main jobs as a founder, is to set the early tone and the culture of the company.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So you want to talk a little bit more about the future? You want to plug some links for us, or your social profiles or anything?
Yeah, sure. I think in the future it's really straightforward. I think we're just beginning to scratch the surface of this micro-tutoring market.
Yeah.
We think it's huge. It just keeps on growing. We just came off our best month ever.
Nice.
And so it's super exciting. I think from there, just overall education is so much opportunity.
Yeah.
I can't iterate enough. Being a student, which has been a big advantage for me as a founder in the education space. Talking to students, a lot of them are really not inspired by their education, or they feel like it's a chore. And that should not be what learning is. That should not be what 18 years of your life should be.
Right,
you know what I mean? And if you fast forward 200 years from now, and we have a better education system, people are going to be looking at us and be like, wow, this was basically like jail. You put these kids, and then you had someone just like train them, and on these sets, and it wasn't necessarily proven to work or be effective. And as I said, I find that the people that are getting the best educations are the ones that are self-empowered empowered and inspired and they want to do it. If you don't want to do it, it just doesn't work, right? So I'm really excited about this whole reformation, and I think Study Pool will be part of it. Hopefully, we'll be a leader of it. We'll see. You know, as far as social, I'm not actually really a big player in social.
Yeah.
But you can find me online if you want to reach out to me, and I'm happy to
Plug Study Pool's website.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just studypool.com. So
Cool.
yeah.
Rich, appreciate it, man.
Great chatting.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.